this guy, needs to plant his feet on the ground, right? He's always up in the air. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He has no clue where to start.
What's up, Aventis fam? You're listening to Aventis Knows. I'm your host, 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲, and for those of you trying to find your way around the corporate ocean or trying to hashtag up your game with a career, this is where you should be. In the previous episode, we discussed the effects of workplace conflicts on not just ourselves, but the people around us. For today's episode, we'll be finding out how we can deal with difficult colleagues and whether or not we're the difficult colleague. So stay tuned. In this episode, we have a comeback. He's spoken previously and shall now speak again. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome learning strategist and founder of 5U, Edwin Sim. Welcome back, Edwin. How are you doing today?
I'm good. It's good to see you again, Myra.
It's good to see you too.
Yeah.
So on the topic today is how to deal with difficult colleagues. But what are the different types of difficult colleagues that we'll encounter in the workforce?
So this is a very interesting topic, right? Whenever I get asked to talk about difficult people, difficult customers, right, I always like to throw them back this different idea. Why don't you think of difficult as different? Right? So instead of saying that someone is difficult, think of that person as that person is different. That's why we're having this difficulty right now, right? Because the other person is different. So I think that if you look at difficult colleagues and you turn that to different colleagues, and if you could find a language around, so how are they different from me, right? Then that's where I think you start to open up possibilities of dealing with your difficult colleague. Yeah, that's how I look at encountering difficult colleagues. And the other thing is also, other than looking at it from a different colleague perspective, the other one is also sometimes people are difficult or become difficult when their needs are not met. So asking ourselves, what have I done to make that situation so difficult, the person in that situation to be perceived as difficult? Yeah. So there must be some needs that have not been met. All right. That difficult customer, was nasty or was rude because her needs or his needs are not met. That's why he or she is behaving that way. So it's the same for our colleague as well. So I think these are the two perspectives I'll offer to anyone, right, who is trying to deal with difficult people or colleagues. Start thinking of them as different. The second one is perhaps they have needs that are not met. That's why they are behaving that way.
So we shouldn't be labeling people as difficult so quick before, we find out what is the situation in reality.
Yeah, I think once you label someone as, well, this guy is difficult, right? You already set yourself up for a roadblock, right? Because your mind and your body already tells you that this guy is difficult, right? But I think it's a different psychology and approach when you say that, hey, Myra is different. She's not difficult, she's different, right? And what have I done or not done that caused her to have a need that I've not been meeting that's resulting in her responding that way? I think it then becomes a little bit more solution focused and more positive in that sense. Yeah. But I know it's not easy. I do have my moments where I go around saying that people are difficult.
I mean, I think it clicked in me when you said, instead of viewing the person as difficult, view them as different. I think for me, I feel when you said that, I was like, oh, okay, that's a different approach. That is how I can view it in a more positive light.
Yeah. And if you are not the positive thinking kind, then I would say that it just offers you a neutral perspective now, right? Yeah. So you're not even saying that the guy is right, but the guy is just different, right? And he or she has got needs that are not met in our transaction, in our conversation, in our dealings, right? That's why he or she is behaving that way. So what can I find out about that need, right? How is he different in his perspective or her perspective? So that usually helps me to get to a more neutral stance to start dealing with this guy, right? Yeah.
So how can we deal with different colleagues?
So I mentioned earlier on that I think it helps if you can put a language to differentiate people, right? Myra, are you familiar with DISC? Not sure if you
Not very.
not very, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Personality tools, right, like DISC, MBTI. Those are great languages that I use to not label people, but to help me understand why they're different. I'll give you an example, right? Do you prefer to work first then play, or do you play first then you work?
I like to work first then play.
All right. So I'm the opposite of you. I like to mix work and play together, right? So I can be, working on my draft or my report, and say, you come by and you say, hey, Edwin, are you up for a cup of coffee? Let's go Starbucks. They have this 1-for-1. There's this high chance in me that I would say, let's do it. All right, come, let's go grab the coffee and I need a break. But if the reverse, right, if you are the work first then play, right, and if imagine at 3 p.m. I come to your table and say, hey, Mira, shall we go for the Starbucks? You might say, hey, no, I'm working on this piece. I have a deadline. Let me get this done and then we can go for coffee later.
Yeah.
Can you see the,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So now I'm going to think, why is Mira so rude or unappreciative, all right? And the reverse, right? You will be thinking, right, why is this guy interrupting me? I'm in the flow. I want to complete this so I can go back. I don't have to relook at this. So because we're different, we now have a situation where, and of course, this is just one Photoshop, right? Imagine this happens over a period of time. Right? And the next time someone comes up to me and say, hey, what about including that guy or that lady, right, for coffee? I'll say, no. She's not easy to deal with. Forget it. Right? And there you have it. Right? You've created a difficult situation with a person in it without knowing the language. So when I say looking at different types or of people, find a language that you like. Right? For example, some people like to do the one I just did on you, by the way, it's MBTI. Right? It's whether people are more planful or people are more flexible, right? So I'm the flexible kind. You also be you really plan and schedule, right? Work first, then you play. Or I could use another language like the DISC, right? So the DISC for you viewers out there is the D for dominance, I for influencing, S for steadiness, C for compliance, right? And the two distinct, different personalities or colleagues I can think of is the influencing guy who is creative, flexible, out of the box thinking versus the compliance person who is more, I want to follow rules, all right? I need details, right? Don't give me conceptual, airy-fairy responses. I want structured, real, and systematic, detailed information. Put them together in a meeting, all right? In a brainstorming session, you have one guy who is thinking that, we should do this, we should do that. Oh, I get excited about this and that, right? And then the other person will be thinking, giving you 101 reasons why your ideas will not work because you haven't provided me the details. And so you put them together in this room and you can be sure that they will be looking at each other and saying, why is this guy so difficult? Every time I put up an idea, he or she is there to burst it. And the other person will be thinking, this guy, needs to plant his feet on the ground, right? He's always up in the air. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And he has no clue where to start, right? Yeah. There you have it, a perfect formula for having difficult people in the team. So I think once you are aware of this, then you realize that, hey, I'm just different, all right? I need to give maybe a 5-hour or a 1-day advance notice to Mira for Starbucks at 3 p.m. Right? Yeah. And for you, reverse would be, it is okay, I can walk up to Edwin's desk and say, hey, I got something that I need to brainstorm with you, right? Would you have just 5 minutes to spare, right? And do it, right? Yeah. And then the world becomes a better place.
Yeah. I think it actually applies to me as well. I think in terms of like my friendships that I have, they all know very well that they have to let me know like very advanced when they want to like go out with me.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And so, last minute changes, for example, people turning up late, I'm sure it bothers you. People not turning up on time, all right? Yeah, so these are things that once you get to understand and you have a language around it, right? Whether it be DISC, MBTI or Workplace Big Five, many Hogan, right? Many tools out there. Find the one that that you believe in the most and easiest for you to apply, all right? and stick with it, and you start to see people from a different perspective. Notice the word different, not difficult.
Yeah. So what should we do if our different colleagues, they don't want to like maybe change or, accept the fact that one of us has to be difficult, that kind of thing. And we still have to work with them. So what should we do?
Yeah. This is difficult, all right? Especially sometimes when the person who refused to budge or to concede or give in is in the wrong, all right? And it's the showstopper to the entire transaction or the relationship. One advice that or one principle that I use for myself and my advice to the people I work with is it's focused around this concept and idea of focus on things that you can control. All right, so there are three circles in my life, things that I can control. That means things that I know I have absolute control. All right, like for example, choosing the words that I use. All right, looking at someone in the eye, even though I don't agree with that person. Right, so those are things that is within my control. Then the next circle is the things that I can influence. All right, so things that I may not be able to control, but I have some say. Right, I can go influence the other department to be more favorable, or persuade them, etc., etc. Right, so recognizing the second circle that I have in my life, and the third circle is, I think you guessed it already, right? It is things that are outside of my control. I have no absolute influence over. Like for example, the weather, we have no control. All right, so. I guess going back to your question, right? When you deal with someone who is refused to change their ways, I would think of what are the things that I can control, what are the things that I can do to manage the situation or the conflict. The second part would be, what can I do to influence this guy? I can't control him, right, or her, but there must be some things that I can do to persuade, to influence, to make it easier, all right, for the other person. So these are the two circles I will tend to focus on, right? The third circle is where I try not to get into. Like for example, why is she always like that? I knew it. I knew it when we planned for this that he's going to be like that, right? So those things are outside of your control, right? You can't control the other guy's response, and you focus on those things and you start blaming, and that's not healthy, and you spiral downwards, right? So I would say that if I have to deal with someone who refuses to change, I ask myself, what are the things that I can control? And what are the things that I have to let go? And in between is that, what can I do to influence the situation so that the person can see where I'm coming from? Yeah.
So like, what do we do if we find out or maybe we realize that we are the different person, the different colleague?
Yeah. Funny, it's funny how you mentioned this, right? Most of the time, all right, think about it, right? 9 out of 10 times, or in fact, I'll venture to say 10 out of 10 times, we think that we are right.
Yeah.
Right? It is only with more new information, we realize we made the wrong decision or made the wrong stance, right? So this is later on. So the thing is that we must recognize that we often think that we are right. Okay, so when it comes to the question, right, what if we become the difficult colleague, right? It's a very hypothetical question that a lot of people won't entertain. All right, how can we identify that? I think it comes with maturity and also this wisdom that I read about this wisdom called the pause principle. Pause. You press a pause, right? So I think how can we identify that we're being difficult is sometimes to step out of that situation, become the third person, all right? And just take a pause and start to ask ourselves, is this really what I want? What am I being? Who am I being? What's important to me? What assumptions am I making? And that's where Harvard and Stanford and a lot of these research universities are starting to find out that mindfulness is actually a practice that can really help people to take that pause, right? So I would say that it is a practice. It is probably, I don't have a straight answer for you. How can we identify, right? Because the reality, like I said, right, most of us think that we are often right. So it's about having that tentative pause to say that, hey, let's pause for a while. Am I really right? Or maybe that's the wrong question to ask. I think the pause and say, what do I want? What does Mira want? Right? And from there, take that approach. Yeah. But I want to say that I'm not there yet, right? I jump and I get triggered. I'm as human as everyone out there is. And it's not easy to identify that we are the difficult ones. Yeah. So I'm afraid I don't have a straight answer for you. Yeah. But I think going along the lines of taking a pause and going slow, right? In terms of don't react, but think of our response. I think that would be a good place to start to identify how difficult we ourselves can be sometimes.
I think that's like all of our journeys for now.
Right?
Everybody's still learning.
That's right. We're all work in progress, right? WIP. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. For the companies that are listening, what can you suggest the HRs to do in order to encourage or promote better harmony among colleagues?
I think especially in the times like this right now, as we are going through the pandemic, everybody's working remotely or encouraged to work remotely. I think companies would do well to provide opportunities for relationships to continue to flourish in the workplace. We got to stop HR especially, right? Or bosses have to start relooking at these are not just people who are here. I'm buying time from them. And their obligation is to just me, right, or my department, or me as a manager. But understand that the people working within the team, they have relationships, right? There needs to be connection going on around between them as well. So I think to create harmony, to create the environment where people are, can develop meaningful relationships, is to create opportunities. So I just give you an example. I just got off a call earlier on, right? And this client is now looking at how we can create team building virtually. All right, and so they are thinking of doing this short, 20 to 30 people, locked in for 1 hour on a Zoom or on Teams, and start to do team building, right? The virtual, which is tough, right? You may have heard of stories of people having lunch together virtually as well, right? So I think companies should provide opportunities for such interactions. The more you get to know someone, it's easier to get things done. So, and I would say that once you do it within the team, start thinking about doing inter teams, right? So maybe finance and IT should have a team building session together, right? Marketing and sales, right? They are always at loggerheads, right? They should maybe do a team building together. Yeah. So I think having them interact and doing it intentionally and systematically. What do I mean by that? Don't just do it. After you hear this podcast, let's just do one, right? And then you forget it. It's like taking a shower. You don't take a shower once and not take shower anymore. There is a maintenance to it, and so you can do it every last Friday of the month, or find opportunities for people to get to know one another. I think that would be the first step that I would say to promoting harmony and developing relationships in the workplace. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Edwin. This conversation has been really insightful for me.
It's good to know, and it's great for me to be here as well, and to talk about things that are important to all of us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Especially during this pandemic, I think everybody's really on their toes with it.
That's right. Right. And as our nation is braving for our next potential second wave, we pray it never happens. But we need to be mindful that we're dealing with people, and there are relationships going on, right? So let's be intentional about building those relationships in the workplace, so that we can all create a better world.
Thank you so much, Edwin.
Welcome.
Bye.
See you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for listening all the way till the end. That's all we have for today, but if you guys do want to find out how you can deal with difficult customers, then you gotta tune in next Friday. If you guys do have any other topics you'd like us to cover, feel free to reach out to us on our Instagram at AventisLearning. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next week.